While we're on the subject of the newbies, let's go to the
down.
other newbie.
Let's head down to my neck of the woods here, Andy. Let's go to Austin, Texas.
So look, we don't have to beat around the bush here. The ceiling for Texas is a national title. They should expect to make the playoff. They should expect to play for the SEC championship. Is the schedule super easy? Not super easy, but I'd say they got a pretty good draw.
It's favorable. I agree. I think it's favorable.
Well, they chose to go to Michigan, so that's on them. And then Georgia coming to them is great because you get that marquee game.
Yep.
It's the weekend of the F1 race too, so God bless you if you're trying to maneuver around Austin that week. But you don't have Alabama. You don't have LSU. You don't have. It's not as challenging a schedule as it could be. So this is a good spot for Texas to be in because this roster is this the best roster in the SEC? It's them or Georgia, probably.
I was going to say,
or Alabama.
I think Georgia might have the case in terms of talent, but to your point, the schedule is set up for them to make a serious title run again. The only true road game that they have, I think that's an actual battle on paper, is against Michigan in week 2. And even then, they're replacing a ton of production. They're breaking in a new starting quarterback and a new head coach. I could see them losing to Georgia at home just because the Georgia team's so damn good this year. But realistically, this is a team that should lose 2 games max. I think this is a team that's probably going to end up finishing 11-1 in the regular season. Let's say they split Michigan or Georgia. They're going to compete for SEC championship year 1 in a new conference. And they're going to set the tone early for basically put the SEC on notice and say like, hey guys, like we can play with you guys. Now, I do think a big factor in that though, Andy, is in the trenches.
Yes.
Right. I think offensively, yes, you have Kelvin Banks, and that's great. I do actually think that offensive unit with guys like DJ Campbell, and I think they're going to be able to actually move some bodies up front. It's on the defensive side of the ball I get very worried. Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat go into the league. I will say it is very helpful that they're able to rotate in some experienced guys like Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton. And they beefed up and got Bill Norton and Tiola. Oh man, I'm going to butcher this name. Tia Oali Savea from Arizona.
Yeah.
That's my best attempt. But
very nice.
I think those guys actually help them out because they're able to rotate more bodies along the interior. Plus, I have hardly seen anyone talk about this. I know we mentioned the portal and impact players. They brought in an absolute weapon of a pass rusher in Trey Moore out of UTSA. This is a guy that had 14 sacks and 17 and a half TFLs last year. Like, this is a guy that's a freak show coming off the edge, absolute plug and play. Pair him up with Anthony Hill back there at linebacker.
Right. Or Ethan Burke's not a bad pass rusher either.
Absolutely. And you have the senior veteran and former Cinco Ranch Cougar, David Binda, at the linebacker core. They have some veteran presence on this defense. This is a team that's going to make waves this year. And I think, I hate to say this, Andy, but this is a team that I think can justify all this Texas is back noise. Like, this is real. This team is real.
And they bring in Isaiah Bond, who everybody remember caught the 4th and 31 touchdown pass at Auburn for Alabama last year, but also Amari Nyblack from Alabama, who I think if you were looking for someone who could plug in and do what Jatavian Sanders was doing for you, physically he fits the bill.
Yes. And I mean, yes, they lose Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell as well, but they brought in Isaiah Bond, like you mentioned. They brought in Silas Bolden as well from Oregon State. He led that team in receiving last year. And they bring in former 4-star Matthew Golden from Houston. Yes, you lose Jonathan Brooks. That's okay. You only have former 5-star CJ Baxter in there to replace. That production is going to get replaced by very talented players. So I think Texas is going to be good again. And they're going to make a run. Like, I don't see a world in which
what are we saying for our floor for Texas? I originally had 8-4, but the more we talk about it, I think I may have to go to 9-3.
That's where I'm at. I think 9-3. I think you lose Michigan, and if we're bottoming out, right? I think you lose Michigan and Georgia, and then there's a world in which maybe Oklahoma upsets you again, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe there's something where Oklahoma has your number, and you get to 9-3. But that's really it on paper, I think, Andy.
I think so too. And it's crazy because we're only a year removed from me saying I need to see this. I need to see Texas stop losing the games it always loses, and they did. They've done the thing about it. Everybody's like, On3 is just in the bag for Texas. Like, look, here's the thing. I was as critical of Texas as a person could possibly be for about 5 years.
Sure.
But if you suddenly stop doing the things that are holding you back, like they make draft picks again.
Absolutely.
They didn't lose. Like the K-State game last year was a prime example of a game Texas would have lost in previous years.
100%. No question. No question.
And they didn't.
To your point, I mean, they're able to find these players. And like you mentioned, they had 11 guys drafted in the 24 draft. That's more than they've had in the last 3 years combined.
Yeah.
There's something about.
And they're going to have 8 or 9 next year.
Yes.
Including at least one first rounder.
Right. Absolutely. And at left tackle, no mind. So it's only one of the most important positions on the field. And they have their quarterback, who's also going to be a first round pick, is arguably a top 3 quarterback in the country. This team is built to win. And I can't imagine.
Oh, by the way, if that quarterback doesn't work, the next guy might be pretty good too.
The other guy's pretty good too. Everybody like losing it over the spring game, but they're deep everywhere, borderline everywhere.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.